So yeah, I was just going to talk a little bit about our experiences of hooking up with Preservica as a starter user. So I want to say a little bit about the Folklore Library and Archive just to kind of contextualize this a bit. So the Folklore Library and Archive is a pretty new charity. It became a charity around about 15 months ago now. So it is still very much a baby charity. It grew out of a previous project. So on the next slide, you'll see the details of the podcast that I have been running for some time, which is on the same subject matter. And this was supposed to be a hobby about 10 years ago when I experimented with the idea of running a podcast. But as this was a time before podcasts were a big thing, it became a much bigger project than I was ever intending it to. So it's going into its 10th year now with about 2 million downloads behind it. So it became quite a large thing, and its growth then enabled us to look at other ideas, one of which was founding the Folklore Library and Archive, which was originally just a branch of this podcast. But then in June of last year, 2023, it incorporated as a proper charity. So it's now a trustee-led charity, which has a constitutional aim to collect and preserve materials related to the subjects of folklore and social history and custom and tradition. But crucially, to make those freely available through open access as far as the materials will allow it to anybody. So it is for the public good. So with that said, we obviously needed a way to be able to do that. So the next slide will show you our starting position. That's it. That's how much money we had when we started this charity. The charity is still very much volunteer-led. So we use fundraising, we use grant-funded projects for various things. We still, at the time of me speaking to you, have 0 staffing now. So outside of those grant-funded projects, we don't have paid staff at the moment. This is a voluntary project, a volunteer-led charity. We're obviously looking to grow and to change that over time. So how and why did we use Preservica? So on the next slide, we'll go into this just a little bit. So Preservica was recommended to us through another webinar, actually, looking at digital archiving more generally. And as part of that webinar, I had asked the question in the chat, as people ask questions in the chat, as to what people's recommendations were for looking at a good system to use, bearing in mind where our charity was at that time in terms of funding and in terms of what it was looking to deliver. And one of those recommendations that came out of people in that webinar was Preservica, and that was the direction in which we ended up going. So why did we look at that for digital archiving? Well, we looked at it because at the time that we were going in, there was an entry-level option which suited us, which was free of charge, which was the initial starter version of Preservica with a small amount of space, which was what we needed at the time. And obviously without the over-branding that we have now, because we now use Starter Plus, but just the bog standard basic system, which was absolutely perfect for what we needed, because we knew that we were going to get future-proofed presentation and preservation, and we knew that we were going to get an industry standard, no matter the level of entry that we were using. So going in at that entry level, we still got to enjoy the same level of benefits as people who are on the enterprise or much further up the system. So we knew that the materials would be safe. We knew that the very bizarre range of materials that we might want to put on there would be able to be ingested and handled. And we knew that people would be able to look at them and access them freely through the portal. So we could start for nothing or virtually nothing. We could build up later and have that same quality of service regardless, which was vital for us at that time. So what did we want to put up on there? Well, the next slide kind of details a little bit the kinds of things we want to put on there. So we're looking at image archives. We're looking at archives of audio materials. So that might be oral history recordings. It might be folk songs. It might be field recordings, all sorts of things. We're looking at preserving video in our archives, and we're looking at preserving documents. So that's scans of handwritten documents. It's digitally created documents, the whole range of things. And obviously, we can use Preservica in the same way for all of those different formats. So I just put on the bottom of that slide, just as an example, one of the very random things that we have in our collection. So that is a pair of knitted bollard toppers that were put out in Britain to celebrate the Platinum Jubilee of the late Queen a couple of years ago. They were donated to us. The physical items were donated to us by the creator. So they now sit in our archives as physical items, but obviously all of our physical object artifacts get photographed. They get put onto Preservica with the description and the asset numbers for people. And then other institutions, and this has happened a few times since we've started using this, will be able to contact us and request items for loan if they're putting on museum exhibitions, for example, and those sorts of things. So with a bit of kind of creative thought in the way that your processes work, then you really can sort of present everything through Preservica for people to access, no matter what the bizarre format of that might be. If you want to just nudge on to the last slide, I didn't make very many slides, which is just as well under the circumstances by the looks of it. I just wondered whether we should just sort of mention what our next steps are going to be. So obviously we're building up now the amount of material that we're collecting. So we've moved from Starter to Starter Plus really just because we needed more storage space as much as anything else. And obviously the overbranding as part of our image is really useful too, but predominantly because we're collecting more and more material. Our next logical step as far as other things that are available to us is going to be the relatively new ability on there to be able to invite submissions directly. So obviously lots of people donate items to us. At the same time, we have various projects running that look at particular aspects of research. We have a couple of heritage projects looking to collect photographic materials for particular subjects at the moment, for example. So our next step is going to be looking at ways that we can really utilize the submissions invitation system to be able to send out emails to people who can then upload their images directly to our archives in a kind of safe folder for us to ingest the material and then interpret it and put it into the right places. And it's kind of that ability to cut out part of the process of collection and scanning and ingestion by people being able to just go straight in and send stuff to us, which we can then access. That's going to be our next step. I'm very happy to talk to people about our entry into this as relatively new users a year or so ago. So the website for the Folklore Library is on that slide on screen, and our email address bottom left, and our X/Twitter/ the other platform bottom right. So do feel free to get in touch if you want me to talk in more detail about any specific questions that you might have. But hopefully that covers in a very short amount of time what was a very lengthy and successful process.